Hey, babe.
Hi.
We're back with the new books with babe.
Like we never left,
Like
just
we never
a few years.
really left.
Hi everyone.
How y'all doing? We gotta take care of the business first. This is YouTube, right? So we
This is
gotta
YouTube.
need to subscribe and like.
If
We
you
need
feel like it.
no. Go ahead and do it. You should feel like it. We'll give you a second to go do it. Hold on. We'll just wait for you to do it right now.
Wow.
All right. Since you did that, our goal is to get 1,000 subscribers by July.
Oh wow.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Radical goals right here, right?
Okay.
All right. So what we got? What we got today, boo?
Let's start with the fact that we have not discussed how we're gonna run this conversation. So this
Doesn't
is
matter.
very organic.
It's a book, and we're gonna talk about it. So
Books
what's the
with
book?
babe.
What's the book?
If we're meeting for the first time, I'm Nori. This is
I'm JP.
JP, and we are Books with Bae. We are married and we read books.
We talk about them.
And we talk about
That's it.
And that's what we're going to do here.
Yep. There we go.
So today we're going to be talking about a book called The Complete Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. This is what it looks like for those of you that I know are eager to pick it up.
So yeah, we'll drop the link in the description. There's also a free Audible version. So if you have Audible, you can check it out. I don't know if we have a membership, so we get it for free. I don't know if you can download for free if you don't, but it's also available there. They have it on Kindle as well for a couple bucks too.
And
So-
also, it's a good book, y'all. Like, it costs less than $10.
It's short too. It's only I listened to the audio literally this morning, and it's like an hour. So there are different versions. The version you have has some extras in there because the original author is Florence, but this one has commentary by
Chris Gentry.
so a couple different versions. But we're really gonna talk about the main version of the book, the one that's written by Florence. So, babe, where did you even find this book? How did you get introduced to this book? Because she brought it into the house,
Yes.
and I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. The game of life. I've always thought of life as a game.
Yep. So I love context. Thank God that we're talking about
Oh,
context. 'Cause,
context.
you know, we need it. So the game of life and how to play it. I learned about this book through, what am I gonna call her? My
Coach?
spiritual coach. My spiritual coach. Her name is Janelle. She's bomb, and this is one of our recommended readings for the coaching program that I'm doing with her. And she's really big. She does a lot of work in the astrology sphere, and it's something that I'm really fascinated about because I'm just fascinated about self mastery altogether. So it was just gonna be a matter of time before I made my way into astrology because that is also part of just learning the different dimensions that are life and the different planes in existence. But you know, I won't get too into that because somebody might
Like
be
this
like,
book
"What
doesn't
you
have. I
talking
don't
about?"
remember astrology in this book.
But this book is not about astrology at all. It's interesting because this book has a lot of biblical references, a lot of Christ references. So when you first pick it up, it might not be what you expect it to be, right? So I learned about this book through Janelle. And when I started reading this book, I was just like blown away because I remember JP talking about life as a game all the time. He has always said this, and he always like compares it to what's that video game?
Mario, one of them. And I got something on my face.
Yeah, it has something on your face. To the Mario video games, how you go through these different levels and you get, you fall down, you get back up again.
Side note: we need to get back to playing Mario. We
need to
started.
get
We
back.
started playing Mario 1 and 3. We got to get back on it. I think we got past the first level. I showed her the cheat in the tunnel. She got to the end, but we'll get back
It's
to
a
that
little
one.
harder than you think, especially when you don't know where the buttons at. I was getting carpal tunnel on my fingers. It was a lot. But back to remaining to focus on the book. That's how I learned about this book. And then I started reading it. She actually shared a link to a YouTube version of this book that's free.
There you
So
go.
we
somewhere,
can drop that
somewhere on here. There's a free
in
version.
the description. There will be something there. You can click on it if you want to support.
So we encourage you to support.
Support.
But this book has been
Florence.
out for a while. So like I said, it's
Yeah.
free. So the
Yeah.
copyrights or whatever have long.
Yeah, this was published in 1925, which is something else that I found very interesting when I started reading this book. Is how relevant the things that Florence talked about in 1925 are to today. And it just really reiterated the fact that life is a game, and as such, you're always learning new things that you can apply to life. So that's how I learned about this book. So I started reading this book, and like everything happens in our lives and in our household specifically. JP was like, "Oh, what's that? What you reading?" And then he was like, "Oh, there's a video on it." And I was like, "What? Did you even read it yet?" And now here we are.
I hadn't, but I was like, yeah, I can read that. It was thin, like that thick, real quick. I said, you can read it in the morning, literally.
Yeah. So, what made you want to talk about this book?
It's called The Game of Life, and as you mentioned earlier, I've always thought of life as a game where it's multiple games. So there's the general game of life, but then there's these meta games within. You can pick, just like you can pick a sport, you pick basketball, soccer, football, but in life you can pick a certain career. You know, you can be a musician, you can be accountant, you can be an engineer, a doctor, you can have a family, you can do there are all types of different games, and there's typically some type of rules to those games or some outlines that then you're able to build on top of that to become great at that game. So that's what interested me about that book when I first saw you had purchased it.
There you have it. That's how we got here.
All right.
Now JP he's really like the head of this channel. So I have other things I be working
Books
on.
with Bay, so I need Bay for most of the videos.
He the one gonna be putting all this stuff for y'all in the description. So talk to him. But I'm gonna be here for the discussions, though. I do want to be very, very clear about that.
And we're gonna target to talk about the first half of the book today. So the book is only about 100 pages, so I think we're gonna chalk to up to page 50 or 60, about halfway
62.
through. So
if you have this copy, or if you decide to grab this copy, the essence of the book is the same stuff that Florence talks about. Yeah. What Chris Gentry does, he just adds some things at the end of the chapters for you to reflect on. But the chapters themselves are exactly her words. They kept the same things that she said. They just added some questions to make it more relevant to the current climate or whatever, right? So that's all that is. Now, let's get started.
All right. The Game of Life.
The Game of Life.
Set them up. Let's play.
Wow. Especially because what I'm going to read next is going to be a mixed transition. So the first thing that I highlighted in this book when I grabbed it was a line that says, Jesus Christ taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving. So this book references a lot the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now,
which is interesting because a lot of the things I've been reading as well have been going back to Jesus, and not necessarily the church, but more towards the Bible and a lot of the wisdom that's found in there. And I do find myself now, as I'm getting older, kind of coming back to the Bible, and I understand a lot more of the things I thought earlier that were kind of crazy in the Bible, or just the way it was taught to me that I interpreted it. Now it's kind of like, this stuff actually makes a lot more sense now that I have some context around what's going on.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the word context. Y'all gonna hear that a lot
all
on this
the
channel
time,
because I feel like a lot of us don't have context to the things that we are learning and the way they are being delivered to us, and there's so much lost because of that. Like specifically talking about religion, I grew up in a household that I think my family earlier on, they would be labeled as Catholic. Yeah, Catholic, and we went to church. And then I was like, yo, I'm off that. Like, I don't understand none of this stuff that's going on. And also, God seems to be, like, really upset. And I just don't have the energy to deal with that back and forth. But now as I'm getting older, similar to JP, I'm finding myself being like, I always bang with Jesus, though.
Yeah,
like,
Jesus is pretty cool.
Jesus is pretty cool to me. And I even remember saying, I want to be more Christ-like. I don't necessarily want to be religious, but I want to be Christ-like. I want to be able to be kind to others, care for them, care for, the earth, just be a loving being. I think that I've always felt that was in alignment with how I wanted to live my life. So one common theme in all the books I'm actually reading is just Jesus Christ is the way to go, whether you believe in religion or not. I don't know. So here's a line that some of you may find familiar if you have read the Bible. My foreign self.
All right. Let's see.
Whatsoever a man soweth, thou shalt he reap.
Okay.
If he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives love, he will receive love. If he gives criticism, he will receive criticism. If he lies, he will be lied to. If he cheats, he will be cheated. We are taught also that the imagined faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. Now, this part immediately, we can literally do this whole video on this part.
On that one?
because I was just like, yo, this is facts. Like, I truly believe that life is like a boomerang, which she also mentions in this book.
Mm-hmm.
That whatever you put out is what you get back.
Right.
And a lot of times people feel like, why is this happening to me? It's not my fault. And they don't stop to think about, maybe there was something that you put out to the world that's returning this boomerang effect on you. What were your thoughts on that first chapter? I know I just read literally one
line.
In the one page,
what comes to mind first is, and they actually talk about this in another chapter, is what is above is below. So what you put out is what you get back. And we were actually having a conversation maybe today or yesterday, and you were asking me, or it kind of boiled down to, how did I know I was going to be good, or how do I deal with certain things? It's like, I know if I put in the work, if I know if I go out there and do my best, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to be okay, because every time I've went out and done my best work, I've always been rewarded.
That's nice. So sorry about it. Glasses or no glasses? I feel like I'm tired of trying to fix my glasses. What you think? Okay, KP has decided no glasses. I told you he runs this channel. So, what you just talked about is considered one of the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk a lot about in this channel too.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that there are all these laws in the universe, and that everything that happens gets governed by these laws. And some of y'all might not know this because your girl didn't know it for a really long time. So, in this book, Florence references a number of these laws. And you actually are probably familiar with one of the laws of the universe. Well, actually one of the sub-laws of the universe, which is the law of attraction.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you know that one.
Which is another book.
Which is a book. I haven't read that book, but that's a book. And the law of attraction is actually a baby of another law, which is the law of vibration. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Everything is in constant movement. But we'll get more into that nerdy stuff a little later, because, you know, she loves to go on a tangent.
She being her.
She's me. Okay, so let's get into one note I made here. One of the things that she talks about is the different types of consciousness. You have the conscious mind, which is considered the mortal mind, or the things that you're consciously aware of, like the fact that you are alive and you have a body and you see other people. Then there is the subconscious mind. This is the mind that people are mostly not aware of, right? These are the things that are just navigating in your subconscious. They just navigating in the shadows, or, you know.
This is the mind that allows you to be able to walk and be on your cell phone at the same time.
Yes,
right? You don't have to think about walking. You can walk through your house and not run into things because you subconsciously already know where everything is.
Absolutely. And fun fact, I saw this documentary on Amazon where they talked about the mind and the subconscious mind. And they were like, if your conscious mind operated at the same level of your subconscious mind, your brain will have to be 500 times larger. Because that's how much work your subconscious is playing.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, you know, little nugget for you. And then she also talks about the superconscious mind. That may be a new concept for y'all.
That was new to me. I had never heard of the superconscious mind.
So the superconscious mind is the voice within. That is what connects you to God, right? So if we can all agree that we all come from the same thing, this channel will operate under the premise that we all come from the same situation. Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever that is.
It's God to me. You could be universe to you, source, energy, whatever you want to call it.
The Lord.
The Lord. But we all come from the same thing. And this is just how that's going to run in this channel. If you don't agree with that, then none of this is going to make sense to you.
Says the person who doesn't run this channel, right?
Says the person who doesn't run this channel. So the superconscious mind is the God mind within each man.
Is that also the intuition?
Yes, that is the intuition.
All right.
Superconscious is the intuition, is the voice within, is the God in you. All right. So those are the three things that she talks about in this particular chapter. Now, one note that I made on the corner here was, be mindful of what you spend time thinking.
Uh-oh.
What does that? What was that?
Because you spend a lot of time thinking and worrying, you're going to get the things that you think and worry about.
Law of attraction.
And I think that's probably one of the more important things I picked up out of this book, because I have family members in particular who I think about who are always thinking and worrying. And another thing it talks about is if you're thinking and worrying about something's going to happen, well, it's likely that you're going to bring about that thing happening. And so whether it be scared of being sick, getting a disease, something's going to happen to somebody, you're going to likely bring that upon yourself. And so she has examples in the book of, there was a woman who, she had a whole bunch of jewelry, or she bought a whole bunch of jewelry, and she just like held it, like she didn't use it. So I think it talks about the law of use, something else that is going on, another law in the book. But because she had all these jewelry and didn't use it, it was like tucked away, stored away. Like her aunt, she became paralyzed because she wasn't using these things. So she was kind of weighed down by these things. So I think about that with like my family. One person in particular who's always worrying. It's like, why are you always worrying about things that you can't control? And no matter what's going on, no matter how great things are, they always tend to worry. And so I had to think to myself this morning, are there any things in my mind that I may be worrying about that may happen in the future? And something that I always worried about was that you would pass away somehow, particularly maybe like childbirth, right? So that was something that I had to think about this morning. It was like, all right, I definitely need to get rid of that shit, right? Because can't let that happen.
First of all, this is new to me. So, when you first find this information out, this is the first time I hear it.
Can you cuss on YouTube? Can you get monetized? We're not even at that level yet.
We're not even at that level.
Doesn't matter.
But
so
for now, we go.
Maybe we have to edit that out. But yeah, that was something I had to think through this morning, and it was I want to say it's easy for me to kind of just get rid of, but it was like, all right, it's not useful, and I know it's not going to happen because I know that if I put it out there, it's pretty much how it is. The word has power, right? There's something else from that I learned in church, but didn't necessarily understand till I got older what that really means. Although in practice, I've always been about putting the words. If it wasn't maybe verbally, it was the words in your mind or the thoughts of, all right, I'm gonna. Here's my plan. Blah blah blah. Let's carry it out and let's take action on those words.
That is such an interesting perspective on it too, because I think a lot of people do know the word has power, but they don't realize that the power is just constant. Like the word has power whether you're using it against other people, also whether you're using it against yourself.
Or for yourself.
Or for yourself. Or for other people, right? And that's why I think things like prayer, right, are so powerful, because you are literally sending that positive energy to someone, right? Or to an entity or whatever it is you're praying for. So whether you're praying for their success or their demise, you're using the word for that purpose. And it has energy, and energy will come back to you. We're gonna get into quantum physics at some point and talk about entanglements. No point intended.
Hell yes. But tons of puns intended with that one. What are you doing?
But yeah.
Bad marriage for life.
We're gonna come back to that one. So yes, the word is extremely powerful. And that's something that I remember really understanding when I read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's one of the principles that the agreement is that you're not going to use the word against yourself. That's actually one of the things that he talks about, not using the word against you or against other people. And I think a lot of times we are using the word against ourselves and we don't know it, right? So even when you were talking about that worry and letting it go, sometimes you think you have let a worry go, but it still is looming in your subconscious, right? So to bring it back to the subconscious brain, to the subconscious period, that's what the patterns that you have already adopted that you don't know are there. So like knowing that you brush your teeth, however you do it, there's the subconscious that's already stored that. You don't have to think about it. You just pick up the toothbrush and you know what to do, right? If you drive, you just get on the car and you know.
What are all the things you're doing where you're driving, right? You're on the phone, putting on makeup, changing the radio on the phone. You may be texting while you're driving.
Not if I'm in your car, you're not. But yeah, so those are all pieces that we have to be aware of. The subconscious mind is present. So once you set the intention to release a belief, you have to leave room to know that it's still going to be there, maybe a little longer than you realize, especially if you don't have practice doing this, because of how the subconscious works, right? So That's a good one, babe. So another thing that I jotted here, the power of the word. There's literally a chapter called The Power of the Word. So let's just share with you. I'm going to share this with you, this quote that I highlighted. And he says, there are not two powers. There's only one power, God. Therefore, there are no disappointments. And this thing means a happy surprise. Now, I remember reading this line and being like, yo, are you for real right now? I was just so blown away because I think we live in this premise. Most of us grew up with this idea that there's good and then there's bad and then there's evil and then there's things that are not evil. And one thing I'm really learning is that if I truly believe that we all come from the one source, right? Then that means that there is no good or bad. It's just that one source.
Right.
In the one source, whatever it sends you is helping you achieve what is truly in your heart. So I may perceive it as something bad, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that I have learned to see this particular thing as bad.
Exactly.
And then if I go towards it, right, which in my case, which in the case of my clients too, is discomfort. If I go towards the discomfort, then I can slowly begin to see, oh, this wasn't bad at all. This was just a tool to help me learn how to navigate something that I need to know how to navigate in order to reach the next level of where I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I think most people think about good and evil and like, oh, I need to stay away from evil. No evil in my life. It's funny. We were talking about the new Lil Nas X video where he's basically twerking on the devil in the outrage that people on the internet, more likely the conservatives, had over this video. And I'm like, well, if there's no devil in this case, how do you know what good is? How do you know what the goodness of the Lord is, or Jesus, or, you know? So good and bad, we learned this probably a couple years ago, is when I would say this was something that we were really focused on, was that there's not good or bad. It's just things are. And you can't have the good without bad. You can't know what warmth is without the cold. You can't know what dark is without the light, and vice versa. So
it's Easter Sunday.
It is Easter Sunday, right? Are we preaching over here on Easter Sunday? I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's crazy. Did you know you was coming here for that? Well, here you are.
But yeah, that good and the bad. I think that's something we all typically we come across, because we're taught there's good things, there are bad things, and I think that yes, the things that are quote unquote good, those are typically the things that we're going to use as tools to get to that higher level. But we only know that the things that don't help us get to that higher level, we only know them because somebody tries them, was like, don't do those things, they're not going to help you get to your goal. But if your goal is to be a person who is part of quote unquote evil, with it, there's your roadmap for that as well, right?
And I will argue they both help you get to your goal. It's just in different ways, right? Like, for example, what route do I want to go with this example? Let's use a business example. So let's say you have a business. We have a business, or have had businesses, and part of the business growth is acquiring clients, right? So you can choose, I'm going to look for clients in this way and then not get them, and then be like, okay, well, that way doesn't work. Or you can receive clients in a certain way and be like, okay, this way does work, right? So either way, it's all feedback, right? And if you see it as feedback, then it's feedback in relation to the goal that you have set for yourself, which is so important, because one of the things that Florence talks about in this book is setting your intention. So you have to have a clear intention, because if you don't have a clear intention in life, then you're going to become part of somebody else's intention. And we were literally talking about this today, when if you don't have a plan, you become part of somebody else's plan. Another law for you, the law of cause and effect. But we'll come to this one later.
Another one. Lots of laws.
I know. Y'all probably just have your journal or your notebook and just like make a note of it so that you can come back to it later.
What else we got? Someone has said that courage contains genius and magic. Face a situation fearlessly, and there is no situation to face. It falls away of its own weight.
Oh, that's a good one.
Man, you got to go after those dragons, basically. You need to go slay your monsters. Your dragons, your fears, you need to confront them. Because they're not going away. If you're running from them, guess who's going to chase you? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's later in this book, it talks about a lion. Well, if you're scared of a lion and you start running from the lion, well, guess what? that lion's gonna chase you. But if you confront the lion, if you're willing to battle with those demons, those dragons, they just magically disappear.
And to bring it to a practical perspective, I think about like our relationship, for example. We've had a lot of lions or demons or whatever you want to call them that we needed to address. I would even not even give them those names because it gives them a negative connotation. But I think we've all had our things that we like, yo, is that serving you, right? And I think a lot of times we have developed these tools in our subconscious because they have helped us achieve a certain level of something that we wanted. And then you get to a new place and those tools don't work anymore. Similar to that saying, what got you here won't get you there. What got you your first million won't get you your second million. Or what got you your first 100,000 won't get you your second 100,000. It's that same concept, right? So a lot of us are afraid to look into our shadow self. A lot of us are afraid to look at the things that we don't like about ourselves, the things that we feel that we shouldn't have to deal with. Let me tell you something. I can do a whole video series for you on the things I feel like I shouldn't be doing. Okay? And when we embrace that mindset, we keep ourselves from actually seeing what's beyond that. Because we make that the end goal. And there's a whole bunch of other things after that part that you can experience, but you may not get a chance to experience because you're not trying to get there. So a lot of us do what JP did. We put all our feelings in the closet.
Throw them in there till later.
And then we don't come back to them. And then we be tight when we be like, okay, well, why is what's happening here? Not him particularly, because I don't know if that's his process. But I work with clients that be like, I don't know why I'm dealing with this. And it's like, well, you put this in the emotional closet in the attic and you haven't been there in decades. And now it has a life of its own. So we need to go there and like clean it up. And that can be a very scary process because it's very uncomfortable.
Especially spiders and it's dark up there.
Yeah.
Do that.
Birds.
What else? What else we got? What's next?
Well, this is an interesting one. Another law for you. It is safe to say that all sickness and unhappiness come from the violation of the law of love.
What's the law of love?
Love everything unconditionally. Love one another, which is something that Jesus Christ preached about. Love thy neighbor. Love, honor thy mother and thy father, which I think often gets a very interesting view because we all know our parents are.
Still, if you don't like your parents, it's hard. It's
hard to love them.
But I think that law, which I haven't really thought a whole lot about. But when I think about the law of love, I think one, you gotta love yourself first. I think that is the number one.
That in a RuPaul moment for y'all. I'm obsessed with drag. What's it called? RuPaul Drag Race.
Right,
so yes, he says it perfectly. If you don't love yourself, you gonna love somebody else?
Exactly. And I think coming in to our relationship, that was one thing that I definitely had. Like I'm always like, every time I walk past the mirror, I'm always like, all right, I'm looking.
He's not lying.
Looking good from the side, And I've always had kind of self affirmations, maybe not necessarily prayers, but I'm always like, all right, JP, let's get this, let's go, you got this type deal. And then it also talks about the mother and the father. And on a practical level, for my example, my dad, we didn't have the best relationship growing up, right? And there were times where I might not have liked my mom. So it's in the Bible, it also talks about honor thy mother and thy father. I'm like, well, what if they were suck? What if and you probably think the same thing. What if your parents suck? What if they didn't do these things for me while I was growing up? Well, on one level, it's, hey, they were doing the best they could. But it's not just, like, it's not actually the mother and the father. It's the father is the more conservative side. It's the foundation. It's the person or society teaching you. I was twitching too. I was going to hit that one. Society is teaching you these general foundations to help you succeed in life. And then the mother is the more of the creative side, mother nature, where things tend to happen, tend to grow. Women are the source of birth, and making things new. So it's not just honoring the mother and the father as parents, it's honoring those before you, and how just in life there is a masculine and a feminine. You need to honor them together because you need both of them.
Are y'all getting this sermon today? Like, is that what's going on? DJP just switched this up on y'all and be like, honor your feminine.
We're still talking about the game of life.
Masculine energy. Is that what just took place? Because that's what just happened. Basically, you gotta honor your masculine and your feminine energy. because it is within you and you have access to it, and it's the yin to the yang,
There we
right?
go.
You have to be able to take action, but it's how you balance that action with your intuition and your inner guidance that makes the difference. It's not just about go and do if you feel miserable through the process because you're not honoring yourself. You're doing something that you absolutely hate in the name of achieving an outcome that you don't necessarily care for because you want to please other people. It's about following your inner guidance to do the thing you want to do, but action comes with that. You can't, I just read this quote that it was like, you can't make it to success with your hands in your pocket or something like that. Which,
yeah, that's true.
Pretty much it.
That's true.
I love what you just talked about. I love how you just flipped that. Like, I hadn't thought about it in that way, but it makes lots of sense. And honestly, I know a lot of us may not have fully believed this. A lot of you may not believe this now, but your parents are doing their best. They always are. If they could do better, they would do better. And if you think that no, they're not, Nori, you don't know my mama, she not doing her best. You don't know my daddy, he ain't doing his best. Then that's because their subconscious patterns are navigating their lives and they haven't had the bandwidth to do that unpacking. Because unpacking these things take work. This is not, I've been working at this intentionally for the last 4 years to get to a place where I can have this conversation with you and not have an attitude. This takes work. I'm just being real with y'all. I want to talk about one of the laws here. It's called the law of non-resistance.
Ooh, this law.
Now, the reason I want to talk about this law, I'm going to share the quote that she has here. Resist no evil. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Nothing on earth can resist an absolutely non-resistant person. Now, we don't have time for today's video to tell you how much resistance has caused chaos in my life. Matter of fact, I would say how much I have allowed resistance to cause chaos in my life. But I would tell you that the more you resist a situation, the stronger you allow that situation to become, and the more you do a disservice to yourself in moving towards the life that you want to live. And a lot of time you resist because of discomfort. I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that I do as part of my business, so if you don't know, I have a coaching practice where I focus on helping female founders.
Better find out. Check her out on Pinterest.
Yes, she's popping. I help female founders really take their business to the next level, focusing with coaches, consultants, and healers. And part of this work is that you got to find clients, right? Or you have to become a magnet for these clients. And earlier in my business, I had to do outreach. That means going to seek out people that may need what I offer and be like, yo, what's up? You trying to get parts or not? And I hated that. I hated that so much. It was just triggering. At the time, I didn't know it. I will go later on to learn this by overcoming evil with good. But I was really getting triggered through resistance. And the resistance was triggering something in my subconscious that I didn't even know I was dealing with. And that was fear of rejection. And the fear of rejection was really being rooted in a fear of abandonment that I had from when I was a kid. Again, you see how deep that went really fast? So now I am having a tough time reaching out to people that can use my services that I am here to offer them, the gift that I have to give them, right? Because in a subconscious level, I'm afraid that people are going to say no to me when I offer my help to them. And that fear of being rejected comes from the fact that I felt I was abandoned as a kid by my mother and my father, who left me. You know how I'm saying that? Who left me? Who came to the United States and decided that I would be best to stay with my aunts during that process. And that moment there, when they weren't around as a kid, I don't know that. I don't know that, oh, they are here preparing me for a better future. All I know is mom and dad are not around. And that led to those feelings of abandonment being within. That's called an emotional wound. And that subconsciously became the reason why I'm so passionate about helping people feel seen, heard, and understood, because I did not feel seen, heard, and understood. But another byproduct of that was that fear of being rejected. And I resisted doing that outreach because I was so afraid people would tell me no. And there was a day, I'll never forget this. I was like, girl, you're grown. Stop acting like you're a little kid. You can do this. And I sat on my computer and I stared at my screen for like 30 minutes. And I cried.
I was going to say, I'm waiting for the tears. I'm pretty sure the tears came there shortly after.
I didn't do it. I was not doing the outreach. I wanted to do it so bad, y'all. But it was such a heavy emotion. And part of my process growing up was to like pretend like those emotions didn't exist. So I wasn't even...
You were putting them in the closet as well, huh?
I was putting them in the closet as well. And people thought I was so confident in all of this. But in reality, I wasn't doing none of my shit.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting at that computer and I'm like, girl, you just got to send a few messages. Just message 5 people, girl. 5 people. I was bawling my eyes out on this computer. And this is literally me with myself in the computer. There's no one in this room but
I'm
me.
in the other room banging out my outreach.
He doing his thing.
I already dealt with my issues from a previous business where I had to send emails. And I actually didn't share this with her until maybe a month or 2 ago. Mm-hmm. We were talking about her process. And I was like, yeah, I went through this with my other business called Coach Me. I had to reach out to coaches and pitch software to them. Mm-hmm. Well, I had identified a bunch of coaches, but then when it came time to email them, I had the same exact thoughts that she was, right? I'm like, are they gonna want my software? What if they don't respond? What do I say in these emails? Mm-hmm. And I want to say I eventually sent out a couple, but it was only a couple, right? It wasn't even, how many we needed to send, which when I started my consulting business, I was trying to send, 50 plus a day. I'm pretty sure I sent less than 50 in total for the previous business.
I didn't know he was doing that because one thing you learn about me and JP is I be thinking he be doing everything. And then he'd be like, actually, I wasn't. I'm like, why you didn't say that? So yeah, all that to say is resistance is real. And if there is something that you are resistant, once again, you are only resisting your own growth to help you get to where you want to get to, because to bring it full circle, we all come from the same source. So if that's pushing you to go in that direction, then yeah, you need to do that work. And from a practical perspective, how else am I gonna get this client? Like, and somebody is gonna say no because I'm not the right fit for them. And when I was so afraid of people telling me no, I didn't even fathom that I could tell them no.
Not somebody. Most people are going to tell you no.
80%.
Right?
Pareto principle.
You got to go into it thinking, I'm going to fail a lot.
Yeah, that was not what I was thinking at all. I was thinking, why am I not a millionaire yet? I've been doing this for 2 weeks. What's going on?
That should be the name of your book, 2 Weeks to Millions.
2 weeks to millions. And here's a quote that really captures this. If you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. And if you don't take nothing else from this book, this section that we're reading and we're talking about, you should take this part. You should write it down. I'm going to say it again. If you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. And at that moment, the fear of rejection was running my subconscious mind. I wasn't running my subconscious mind. And I had to face those demons. I had to slay those dragons. I had to bring that shadow to light so that I could be in a place where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this outreach, right? And even now, I do the outreach. I still feel like this is I know that this is more about me just facing this than really bringing the big ROI to my business, to be honest with you. But I do it, and I do it because I know that it's me having faith. It's me facing things that is just going to make me better because I am dealing with that discomfort. The work that I do is very uncomfortable. Trusting yourself. The name of my program is called Self-Trust Mastery, for those of you wondering. That work is really uncomfortable because you need to face your shit. Yeah. And there's a lot you're not trying to face.
Well, the game of life is not comfortable.
Yeah.
No matter which game you decide to play in life, there are going to be parts that are uncomfortable. And that's just really because you're exploring a new space. If you think about any time that you move to a new place or you get a new job, it's always uncomfortable. It's always, there's this feeling in the beginning of where am I at? What am I going to do? I need to make sure I'm not in danger, although you're not really in danger, right? But the perception is that there's something out there that can get me. I need to be prepared. I need to make sure I stake out the area before I can feel confident and assured of myself that, hey, I can knock this out.
Also, a sidebar, I just realized that you probably have no idea what the temperature in this house is.
Well, according to the thermostat, it says 72. So
It's 72. I want to share another quote with y'all, and I'm gonna bring a prop.
What are you gonna bring? Uh-oh.
This is something that's gonna make its appearance in a lot of this video.
We should just do a video. We're gonna have to do a video just on this.
We're gonna have to do a video on this, but for now, we're gonna bring this up for y'all. JP, hold it up. I'm gonna read the quote.
All right. Let's see if they can see what this is. Let's just take it out.
So the quote is, "One." I can't read the quote right now. Obviously.
Take it out quietly. All right. Go ahead.
You got it?
Read your quote.
Okay. One is often cured of his faults by seeing them in others.
That's you. You did that. No. You did that. That's you. You didn't do the dishes. No, that's your dish. That's your fork. But that's your spoon.
Y'all gotta tap into your inner child over here.
It's my favorite superhero, by the way. Spider-Man.
So the reason why I wanted to bring this little toysies out is because JP and I, there's a meme called the Spider-Man meme. We call it Spider-Man meme. But
it is Spider-Man. You've seen it with the two Spider-Man. Here we go. Wait.
Hold on. Y'all gonna get a little show and tell and everything. Listen, this is a very dynamic experience. Y'all better like this video. All right. Y'all see this? Okay. You see this meme? I know you've seen this before. So JP and I, in Spider-Man versus Spider-Man, we talk about this all the time because in our marriage, we had to understand that anytime he was pointing the finger at another person, we had another finger pointing right at us while we were doing something. And if I could boil down the piece that has brought us the most peace in our marriage,
that I always blame it on her. It's always her fault. That's what's brought me peace.
And then I blame it on him. Is knowing that whatever we're putting on another person, we also have in ourselves. And that's why we love this, because it's literally the Spider-Man against the Spider-Man, and it's just the same person. You know, obviously in the actual cartoon, there was an imposter in Spider-Man,
in the real
but it's the same. It's the same. You get the metaphor. You get it. You smart. You get it. And that's why I wanted to bring that quote up, because I think it's really, really true. What about you? What has been your experience with facing your own? Actually, I have a question.
Okay.
How has facing the emotional baggage and cleaning your emotional attic helped you be more compassionate towards others?
How has it helped me become more passionate?
Compassionate.
It has helped me become more passionate.
Compassionate.
Putting myself.
You said passionate. I'm talking about
compassionate.
compassionate.
No, I said compassionate.
You said passionate. You're gonna see when you watch the video. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna watch the video. I'm going straight to YouTube. So I've become more compassionate.
Thank you.
With passion. Because so there's an example. There was a guy in high school who I used to shoot to envy, who I used to think, oh, he has all this talent, he's just wasting it. And one of the things I had to realize about myself is, there are probably people who may think some of the same things about me. And so, me going back and thinking about, am I really being the person I want to be? Is that truly how I want to live up to myself, to have those thoughts about someone else? And this kind of goes back to as is above, as is below. The things that you think about are the things you're going to also put out there in the universe. So it has helped me become more compassionate, particularly in my relationship, by figuring, if there's really something I see that I think needs to be done, or there's a feeling I have, just go do it, or just go take care of it, or is that something that I really should be worried about anyway? It's particularly in our marriage where, people, I'm going to call this the first year fights, dishes, who's going to clean, things like that. Like when you actually get to the end, and it's just us right now, right? So we just need to be responsible for ourselves. If you see something, just take care of it, because the amount of time that you're going to think about, all right, I need to go tell her to go do this, you could have just been taking care of it. And then if that person doesn't want to do it, you're going to feel some type of way, right? Like, you did it. It's like, well, if you would have just did it, you wouldn't have had a problem. It would have been done with, and you could have went on about your life, and it wouldn't have been lingering in your subconscious that I need to either get even, or I need to keep count of how many forks that this person has washed this week, right?
0. That's good. How has that impacted you, like, at work? Being able to see your own faults? Because I know you're managing a team, and by a team I mean 3.
I think at work, I had less of an issue just for the simple fact that at work, I don't tend to think I know everything. As maybe in other areas of my life I did.
Like his marriage.
Because at work, I'm like, I know I'm not the smartest person in the room. I know that I can learn anything from these guys. And I tell my team like all the time, like, hey, I'm just a rookie here. You guys are the pros. You know, I have a guy on my team. He's been with the organization for 20 plus years. Wow. The software that he works on, he's been working on for just about as long. So I'm like, hey, I have these ideas. There are things I think we can improve on. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the person who tells me, you know, based on my experience, here's what I think is best. And, you know, and a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, don't let me come in now trying to blow everything up when you know what's the best way to get us through the situation. So at work, I don't tend to have that because, like I said, I always think there's always somebody smarter than me at work.
I would even go as far as saying that at the beginning of our relationship, so we've been married now. This is gonna be our 6th year together as a married couple, and it's a minute. Well, according to JP, that's not that long. At the beginning of our marriage, I would say you definitely. Actually, I wouldn't go before that. When we first started dating, so we've been boyfriend and girlfriend for going on. It's gonna be 10 years this year. You definitely felt like I know what's best here, and I believed it. So
we're on the same page.
We were on the same page. That does not mean we were on a healthy page, but we were on the same page. And I think as we have developed our partnership, this JP playing with the sound with the Spider-Man. That's what y'all hear in the background. As we have developed our partnership and we have created space for each other to be who they are in their fullest expression, I think you have been more like, there are some things that Nory is really good at that I'm not as good at. You know, I've always known there are a lot of things that he's good at that I'm not as good at. That's not something that I've had to necessarily accept, but I have, which has been interesting. I've had to accept that there are some things that I'm better than he is, not as good as I'm doing. Does that make any sense? I feel like I just said a long ass. There are some things I'm better than him at.
Let me, and from my perspective, there are some things that I think are done a certain way that would be best, whereas Nory may not feel the same way or may not care at all about it, right? And so I have to step back and be like, all right, well, my current path of getting this done isn't fruitful for either of us. Let's try a different tact, or let's just like not care about it at all and see how that works. And and I found over time, particularly one, and we were talking about this example. There was Grant Hill, the basketball player, was talking about his wife Tamia, the famous singer, and you know all throughout his playing career, he would say, "Hey, can we cut the TV off at night, right? So he could get some sleep." He didn't want to have the TV in the room. And throughout his whole playing career, he was like, no, I want to fall asleep with the TV on. So, you know, some nights he was like, you know what, I'm just going to go sleep in the other room, right? So now that he's retired and no longer playing, he's now finding that his wife is turning the TV off at night. And he felt some type of way about it, right? 15, 20 years of a career. And, you know, it took her that long to kind of, I won't say realize, but her to have the same understanding as him of why that would be important for them. I felt the same way about things in our relationship. I'm pretty sure she's felt the same way about me around things in our relationship. One thing I would say that example is for us is just around kind of cleaning and having a house that's not cluttered. And maybe not, I'm not saying things are dirty, but, you know, have organization in order, right? So, you know, it was me in the previous part of the relationship. Why don't you fold the clothes? Why don't you put your coat on the coat rack? Things like that, right? But then once I kind of just let them go and didn't say anything, I would say more recently, she's been the person who's like, hey, can we wash these dishes? It's a lot of clutter. I need to organize. I'm going to organize my office. I'm going to clean up in here. I'm like, huh? Who? You?
That's what happens when you want to master yourself. That's the journey to self-mastery. You can't... Self-mastery is about order. So one thing you'll learn about me is I'm obsessed with alchemy. And one of the things about alchemy is order. You have to have things in order. In life, part of the game of life is also order. One of the things that she talks about here is if you want to attract more money, right? So if you want to lean into the law of attraction and get more money, you need to bring more order into your life, because she says you've never met a disorderly millionaire. Why not? Because you need order to make these things happen. Like, order is part of this process. So whether that is order in your physical life, taking care of your body, taking care of what you eat, taking care of how many hours you're sleeping, order in your physical space, because a cluttered physical space is a manifestation of a cluttered mind. And sometimes
it is inner, it is outer.
As above, as, which is actually here, as within, as without.
Yeah.
Is actually another law for you. These are things that are really important to me now. And I think when JP was first talking about it, he was really triggering. Again, it's always something going on in the subconscious. He was triggering without knowing. He was triggering childhood stuff where I was being forced to clean, and I felt like I shouldn't have had to do it. I told you
you
about...
were cleaning after everybody,
and
right?
I was cleaning after people.
Right,
like,
so you
at least in my memory, which could be very faulty, because the memory, again, is not reliable as you think it is.
But it is your truth.
But it is my truth, where
Right.
I felt like I was doing a lot of cleaning of... I grew up with a lot of cousins. Like, there were five houses in my family's land where we all grew up together. So there was a lot of people. That's a lot of houses. That's a lot of cleaning. That's a lot of cooking. That's a lot of stuff. And I remember really feeling like, why am I doing all this labor? I was a kid. Like, I remember being a kid and thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not trying to do any of this.
Ridiculous. Oh my God.
And you know what?
Oh
I'm pretty sure they thought I was a diva. I'm pretty sure that was a nickname for me. It
is.
If there was. Like, and it's okay, because that was my experience.
Say diva en español.
I'm not engaging with this. So when JP will talk about orderliness, back to bring us the topic, I definitely felt that those were, looking back, that was being triggered. Mm-hmm. And that's why you got to bring your shadow to light, because you may be thinking it's something, but it's really something else.
Shadow, evil.
And there's a quote here that she says about the shadow. She says, the shadow is what lives in your subconscious. Okay? She doesn't say this in the book. I'm just giving you some context from everything else that we've read so far. The subconscious, being simply power without direction, carries out orders without questioning. So my subconscious was just carrying out orders without questioning. He knew that to be asked to be orderly meant to have an attitude, and he had an attitude. Mm-hmm. It was not necessarily good or bad. He was just operating from old patterns that were present.
Your order was to not follow the orders.
Yes.
Well, freedom was your discipline, and now she's probably coming more towards the discipline is her freedom. But discipline allows you to be free and do the things you want.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, like, to bring it back to your point about the masculine and the feminine energy, earlier in our marriage, we were very cemented in our energies. And I think I even had a very, like, female energy, and JP obviously has this male energy. And I think now we've learned to merge our energies even more. So not only did I feel like I came in with, like, the female energy, but I was definitely rebelling just the energy, whatever energy he was.
I don't know. I still think you had some more masculine energy.
I did have a lot of masculine energy, and I think that now it's more balanced.
Yeah. Where
it's like, okay, I'm leaning more into my intuition. I will agree with you. I had definitely a lot of my male energy in place, because that's what helped me move it through the streets. And
She's for the streets, ladies and gentlemen.
I used to be up the streets. So when you're in the streets, you need to bring your male energy, because if not, you're gonna get walked over, and that's just not gonna work. So being with him, I realized that was a lot of my male energy at play. And I had to lean more into my female energy so that I can balance those things a little bit more and be more intuitive led, but at the same time not reject structure. And a lot of us reject structure because we see that as a form of punishment. That's a whole nother video for another time, but that was the place where I was for sure. And I think now, 10 years in the game, I feel like we're more in tune with the merging of the energies, and not just like being in a separate duality, but really working together, where it's like, all right, yo, it's not just all structure, all intuition, all rebellion. It's no, what works? And I think I'm finally asking the question, like, what is it that works for me the best? And let me do that. Like, now what's perfect? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? It's what works for me the best, and how do I move with that?
I think we got a couple more quotes on this first half.
All right, let's see. She also shares a lot of affirmations on here. I'll share some of my favorite ones in the comments, and by I share, I mean JP will share.
What about this right here? Boom.
This
Let's go
one?
on that one. What's that?
Faith without work is dead. Faith without works is dead. Yeah, what you think about that?
You can pray and you can have all the affirmations that you want. You can have all the positive thoughts about achieving your goals that you want. But you still have to put in the work. So it's one, creating that belief. So that's what affirmations do. That's what having a positive mindset does. Writing these things down. That's the first step. But then you have to take actions on that work to be able to get to your goal. And I think a lot of times people ask, and you've even said this, I've done a little bit of the work. Why haven't I gotten my $2 million yet? Or I'm
2
doing
weeks.
all these things. I've searched for this stuff on the internet. I put out a blog post. Why am I not getting all this traffic? And it's like, you've done just a teensy bit of the work, but you have to continue to do the work. And so a lot of times people say, I have faith. Sure, it's easy to say I have faith, but once you do have that faith, do you have faith in yourself that you're actually going to do the work, right? So you have to believe. You got to have that faith, but then you have to go and actually put that faith and that belief into practice. Because then if you believe you're going to succeed and you do the work, then there shouldn't be an issue now. We all know we hit those roadblocks. We hit those demons, those dragons that we have to slay along the way. But you still have to keep that faith. And that goes into the ups and downs. That's when our faith wanes. That's when our belief is like, man, this is some hard stuff. Am I actually capable of doing this? But if you're doing the work, you're going to get there, and that's where keeping that faith comes in.
The word testimony comes to mind, and I was talking to my best friend the other day, and I was telling her, like, everybody wants to have a testimony, but they want to outsource the test. And everybody's me.
Break down that word.
Everybody's me.
Break it down, baby.
So you talk about testimony, right? It's you sharing what came out of a journey. It's you sharing what came out of a challenge, a struggle. Well, part of the testimony is the test. And the test that you have to pass in order to have that testimony, right? Like, for example, I've ran 2 marathons. Well, that's the testimony. What happened in order for me to run those 2 marathons? I had to run the marathon. And the test part of that is showing up to training, even when it was cold. Because when I ran one of the marathons I ran was the New York Marathon.
Oh, man.
And I remember it being freezing outside. And I still had to go run. I remember the New York Marathon that I ran was a month after our wedding. And it was the day of our wedding. And I was out running that day. Because I had to train. If I don't train, then I'm going to die on the course. I mean, I wasn't going to literally die, but who knows? Maybe.
They're going to have to push you across the finish line.
And I was going to finish that race, no matter what happened. And I actually ended up getting injured in that race. You remember? So I didn't get injured, but I ended up having to walk a big part of that race because my legs, life happened. So imagine if I hadn't trained. So, my bad. So as a result of that, the test is the work. The test is showing up. The test is going towards the discomfort. The test is doing it when you don't feel like doing it. There were times when, I'm not even kidding y'all, I was going to this races to qualify, and JP was in the bed, cuddled up, so warm, snuggled up, and I'm like, okay, babe, I'm going to run. He's like, I'll come back, and he's still in the bed sleeping, and I'm cold, freezing. That's my choice. That's my test. That's not his. But that's what allows me to say I ran these marathons, because I showed up when no one was watching. I showed up when I didn't have a medal. I actually basically ran the marathon before I even had the actual marathon, because that's how training works. And she has a definition for faith here, and she says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And this was something that I had to really do. We all have to do if you want to achieve something. You need to have faith. And I think about faith like trust. It's like a synonymous for me of trust, where trust works threefold. You have to have trust that the vision that's been put in you from the divine, from God, or your source energy, whatever you want to call it, is given to you for a reason, and you have to trust that you can execute on that vision, like JP said. And you also have to trust that the people to help you make that happen will be placed in your path so that you can execute it, because we cannot do all these things on our own. And that's how faith works for me. So I think this is real. Like, anybody could say they have faith, but when you actually walk in faith, yeah, that's the test. And then when you achieve, that's the testimony. So,
all right. Well, what you got? One more thought before we wrap up the first half.
I will wrap up with this line that says, fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected or transmuted into faith.
Fear and hope are the same. When you enter a situation, something new, you can either be scared about it, or there can be hope that, hey, this thing is going to catapult me to that next level. And I think a lot of times our relationship with fear should be re-evaluated as a relationship with hope, you know? And think about, the one thing that comes to mind is Obama's slogan was hope and change, right? So hope to, say, the Democrats was fear to the conservatives, right? Some people are like, I don't want hope and change, I want something else, right? So
the same thing.
Exactly. So depending on your perspective, where you sit, how your personality is, you're going to look at things a certain way. So a lot of that comes back to how open you are. So myself, I'm fairly open. Untitled is more open than I would on that scale. There's a scale of openness, and we're gonna probably talk about that in a later video. But the people who are higher on openness are more likely to be liberal. Those who are not are more likely to be conservative. So, you know, if there's something that's new, if there's some type of new music or a new law, we know like marijuana is a law that's something that's been becoming more legal across the states, where the conservatives at first were like, no, that's not something we want. If you're in the more liberal states, the ones that started out was California, Colorado. They started out with these laws, and they were like, no, we're going to try it. We're going to go see what's happening. So when you think about the faith and the hope, or not, sorry, it's the
faith and fear.
Faith and the fear, they're really the same thing, and it's really how we approach that is how we're going to determine if I'm going to be scared in a situation, or am I looking forward to the possibilities that can come out of this new environment.
Because on a physical level, they deliver the same hormone, adrenaline.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so you know, bring it together.
All right.
Any other words you want to share, babe? What y'all think about this?
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Have you read this book? This is first half of this. There's some good stuff in the second half too that we haven't even talked about yet. But I did enjoy reading this. I would recommend it. Short read, it's an hour. You can sit down, take this, go to the park, go outside, do something, take it and read it. It's some good stuff. It reminds me of, it's small. You know how, I don't know, you remember the daily breads? If you ever went to church, they have little pamphlets, the daily breads. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Y'all want to hear something funny? The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. That's it. There you have it. Y'all trying to do Bible study with us?
Yeah, we're going to do that. We don't own... Oh, I do own a Bible. I have my kid's Bible. Thanks, Mom. The Bible I had when I was... Bible. My baby Bible was like this big from when I was giving it to her as a kid. But yeah, we're gonna do a whole bunch of stuff. We're gonna do more videos around a bunch of topics. A lot of what we're reading is, like I said, a lot of it is about God, but not just like God and Jesus. It's more about what are the roots of a lot of the stories from the Bible, and like what predated the Bible, what made people want to or create these stories, and what do these stories really mean? Like more on are they actually real stories, or are there more metaphors and things of that nature? So yeah, but I enjoyed reading this. I enjoyed having this conversation. We haven't talked about this too much yet, so this is all new. So we'll finish up on the next video with the second half of the book. So if you enjoyed, like, subscribe.
If you feel like it.
If you feel like it, according to Bay, I'm like, please do. please like, no, if you want to. But we'll be back with more videos regardless. Anything else to share with them, babe, before we go?
Nah, y'all, go check out NoryPonsel.com. That's where I hang out, especially if you're a female founder and you're trying to get your life. Check me out on Pinterest.
On there.
I'm a little popping on there. And by a little bit, I mean a lot.
And I'll be here making videos
And JP's gonna be here. So drop your questions in the comments. If you have books that you think that you would like to hear our perspective on, which really is us challenging your perspective the entire time. So if you would like that, drop them in the comments below.
If you want to be challenged.
If you want to be open-minded and get challenged by some of these things, drop them in the comments below. And if we haven't read it, we may read it. You never know.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Hasta luego.
Peace.
Bye.